Hi, welcome everybody to another episode of The List. We are live again with Coach Fuller. And Coach, today we have joining us Miami Dolphins legend, former first-round pick, OJ McDuffie. OJ, thanks for joining us.
Man, thank you guys for having me, man, and thank you for your patience tonight, man. It's been a rough one for me, as we've talked about off air, but I'm excited to be here, that's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we're happy to have you. Now, before we get into Dolphins talk, I do have to ask, because Coach and I are both Big Ten guys. I'm a Michigan guy. I believe Coach Fuller is a Penn State guy like yourself. All year, what I've been saying is Penn State 2024, 2025 is their year. You got Abdul Carter at linebacker, probably the best linebacker in the country, in my opinion. You got Singletary and I forget the other running back's name right now. But defense is loaded. The question is, what does Drew Aller have to do to take that step? Because I think this is your year to not only get the Big Ten title, but be one of the top teams in college football.
Yeah, really, in most football teams, comes down to your quarterback play. You know what I mean? That's the way it really rolls. College, you can get away with some other things, great defense and great run game, like your Michigan Wolverines did, obviously. No slight to them. But I think Drew has been that guy that, was one of the best quarterbacks coming out when he came out. And I think it's time for him to shine. So, his third year in the league or in college, and his running backs, third year, Allen and Singletary. Those are our running backs. And, I think we should be pretty good. Defensively, we should be really stacked. You talked about Abdul making a move to outside. We should be pretty stacked on defense as well, like we've been. Our offense needs to catch up and, be able to hold up their end of the bargain is what I like to say.
Okay. Yep. Before we get into the current Dolphins, kind of ask you a little questions about your career. Came into the Dolphins a first-round pick. I believe the receiving room was pretty stacked. I believe you were behind Mark Ingram and Irving Fryer as a rookie. Also had Keith Jackson at tight end, so it was really good. But what was it like coming into camp thinking you're going to play with Dan the Man? I believe that was the year he got his Achilles injury, and then Scott Mitchell came in. What was the difference between going from Dan to Scott and then back to Dan?
Yeah, it was it's a huge difference, man. I left college, and I carried Collins, and that's one of the first things people ask me is, getting used to Danny's fastball. I said, well, hell, Kerry Collins had a 95-mile-an-hour fastball as well, so that was easier to get used to. But at the same time, though, Dan's anticipation was incredible. I mean, for me to get an opportunity in that group with the first group, it was amazing sometimes. But when I messed up a couple of times, I lost all my opportunities with that first group. A lot of those guys knew the offense, knew the system. Coach Shula demanded that we learn everything right away. So playing with Dan was awesome for the little bit of time that I got. And in my rookie year, playing with Scott was a little tougher. Brought in a left-hand quarterback. Left-hand quarterbacks are tough. But he and I ran the second team all the time anyway. So I had a little better rapport with him than most guys would have had that were starters from the beginning. So, I mean, it was great, man. Both professional quarterbacks, incredible quarterbacks. Both went on to have damn good careers. So just being in the league, playing with those guys, it was an awesome experience for sure.
And who would you say, real quick, Coach, sorry, who would you say was your biggest mentor those first couple of years?
Irving Fryer, without a doubt. Yeah, Irving Fryer was incredible for me. We almost got at each other, my rookie year. You know how they are. They want to teach these young rooks how to be, rookies and stuff like that. And I wasn't having it, man. So, we were nose to nose a couple times, in the locker room during training camp. But after all that was settled, man, he and I have been best friends ever since. And he took me under his wing. Now he's been great for me.
OJ, as a coach, connecting with individual players, everybody has their own individual story. Everybody wears that number on the front of their jersey. Why number 81?
Yeah, I got lucky, Coach. Back then, before they let all these guys wear these team numbers and single-digit numbers and things like that, you had to wear an 80s number to play tight end and wide receiver. So When I got to the Dolphins, all the other 80 numbers were taken except for 81. So, I mean, I was just happy to get one. A lot of guys have 17, 15, 10, all that stuff. But I was happy to get an 80 number. That told me right then I got a real good chance of making this squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And to go with that, you had a interesting group of coaches throughout your career. College, you had Joe Paterno. Then you went to Don Shula. Then Jimmy Johnson. I don't believe – were you there for Wani too, or was he –
I had 1 year. I had 1 year with Wanstead as well. Yeah, actually a year and a half with Wanstead. because they cut me after the half year. But yeah, I was there with all those guys, man. And I always, every time I hear about the coaches, and I'm blessed to have so many great coaches, I always go back to my high school coach too, man. Cliff Walton in Cleveland, Ohio, at Gates Mills Hawkins, man. He was the first like Hall of Fame coach that I ever played for. And then it was Joe, then it was Shula. Jimmy and I didn't get along very well, but then I did love Wanstead. So those are my quarterbacks from high school on, pretty much.
Yeah. It seems like a lot, aside from like Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor, it seems like Jimmy was a tough guy to get along with for a lot of the players. But he was. What was like the strength and weakness or the change going from Shula to Jimmy?
Well, you know what, man? I mean, I don't want to talk too bad about Jimmy because I do not like the man, and he knows it. It's just in public. I have never shied away from saying that.
Yeah.
He was not about our offense. He was all about his defense and all his guys. And for us, guys like me and Marino, we were Shula guys. There's only a few Shula guys left when Jimmy took over the squad. And so we had to really prove ourselves over again, and make the team all over again, what we felt like. And, a guy like Jimmy, I don't think he appreciated us, man. And I honestly can't stand that man. So it was like we went from one great coach to one guy that thought he was great, and they still put him in the Hall of Fame, but I thought he was average at best.
Yeah. From what I remember as a kid, I'm up in Pennsylvania, but from what I remember as a kid, because when I started watching football, I was technically in Buffalo Bills territory, so they showed all the Dolphin commercials too, and it felt like he was more interested in those hair commercials he used to do than he was in coaching the team.
Bro, when he got to Miami, I thought he'd already checked out. He'd already done. He got lucky at UM, having all the best talent in college football. Got lucky in Dallas with all the best talent after the Herschel Walker deal. Went on to win some championship. Now, I'll give you this. He's a great evaluator of talent. When you go out there and find guys like Zach Thomas, find guys like Jason Taylor. You're finding Hall of Famers left and right. All the guys in the Hall of Fame that he found that play for the Cowboys, I'll give him that. But as a coach, it was just all right. But when he got to us, he didn't give a damn about much of football, man. It was about, he got another big check. He spent a lot of time watching the stock market, and pretty much that was it for us, man. It was just it was a bummer as a coach because I think we all look forward to seeing Jimmy after Shula. We love Shula, hate to see him go, but we were excited about Jimmy. But that was. I
remember that as I was like 16, 17 years old, and I remember feeling like, hey, when he quit in the middle of the night, and then he was deciding if he was going to come back or not, I felt like, well, he's going to leave us out to dry.
Yeah.
And then when you hear some of the stories for some of the players, you felt like he was kind of leaving some of the players out to dry too.
Man, you know what? Like I said, and he was all about Jimmy. It's amazing that he loves his Cowboys. He loves his Zach Thomas and Jason Taylors, and I would too. I love them both myself. But for the most part, he was all about Jimmy. His ego was bigger than the team. We didn't get much accomplished. You go back to the Jacksonville game, we're getting blown out at halftime of that game. And Jimmy, he told us don't go out there and embarrass yourself more than you already have. What kind of coach, instead of, trying to get us like, oh, they scored this many points, we can go out, whatever it might be, No, that wasn't his speech, man. He was already checked out at that point, like you talked about, Coach.
Yep.
And to go along with that, it seems like Dave Wanstead was liked a little bit more than Jimmy, but I know a lot of people coaching my age group, a little younger, a little older, feel like the one thing Wanstead did was waste what was a great team. And much like Jimmy, he didn't really seem to respect or really care about the offense. See, when you have two all-pros going and getting Jamar Fletcher playing the nickel when the nickel wasn't a big thing. What was your impressions of Wanstead as a coach?
I love Dave Wanstead. I thought what we had was what he worked with well. We had a great defense. We had some guys that could run the football. Even after I left, when they had Ricky and Ronnie, I thought they had some great talent on there, and I thought they tried to use it to the best of their ability. They just came up short. They really did. And a lot of times, Wanstead, unfortunately, him and Jimmy had the same philosophy. They want to hang in there, and try to win in the fourth quarter instead of, going after people early and putting them away. You look at some of the great teams like the, New England Patriots. They had Tom Brady, of course, and we had Dan Marino, but their defense was really good. And so when their defense was doing what they were doing, their offense went out there and tried to nail people right away. You look up the New England score, they're up 7-0, 10-0, 14-0 right away, and that's how they buried a lot of teams. We didn't play with that type of philosophy, man. We played close to the vest. hang in there till the fourth quarter and try to win it at the end. And that's the defense was so mad at us as offensive players when we couldn't get anything accomplished late in the game. And I feel for him, man. There were a lot of 3-and-outs when I was on that offense at the end of my career.
Yeah. When I started watching, I believe it was 97, 98 more. And it seemed like it was run Kareem Abdul-Jabbar up the middle for 1, run him up the middle for 2, hope OJ comes down with a catch on 3rd down.
Yeah, seemed like that was it, and that was Wanstead and Jimmy. Jimmy felt the same way, but Jimmy got mad at me and Danny because he told us that Danny threw the ball to me too much. I mean, Danny said, what the hell else am I going to do? You know what I mean? It's like, it was a mess at the end, bro. It really was. And, if I hadn't gotten hurt, I would have loved playing for Wanstead more, but I was happy I wasn't playing for Jimmy anymore.
I think he froze up a little bit. So, OJ, which means more to you? Leading the league in receptions that 1 year, or having Dan Marino referred to you as being the toughest guy he ever played with?
Danny, man. Anytime you get some respect from Dan Marino, man, that's and they both go hand in hand because Danny saying that meant the world to me. But if it wasn't for Danny, I would never led the league. So it kind of goes hand in hand, man. Dan is my guy. I mean, the fact that Pitt and the Penn State guy got along so well at the end of towards the end of his career and the beginning and end of my career, man, it was pretty amazing, man. So I love them both, man. But getting that respect from Danny and hearing it in his retirement speech, I mean, that meant the world to me.
So the very first time you were ever in the huddle with him as a rookie, did you look in the huddle and go, "Oh shit, that's Dan Marino"?
No, that happened in the locker room when I first got to the locker room. You know what I mean? And we're sitting there, and I'm like, I walk in there, and there's the Dan Marinos, the Urban Fryer, Keith Byers, who I loved at Ohio State growing up in Ohio. Keith Jackson. It was like I was awestruck, and I just left my dorm a couple months ago playing Madden with those guys. So that's where the reality kicks in. I'm just playing Madden just the other day. Now I'm in the same locker room with those guys, man. But Danny was that guy. He's a superstar, man. And a lot of guys were starstruck walking in there.
Yep. OJ was, I think, for your career, the team that was looked at as the best was probably the '94 team that lost to the Chargers in the AFC Championship game. I believe it was, or in the playoffs. Is that do you think that is a team that could have and probably should have won the Super Bowl? Oh, we just lost OJ for a second, so just gonna kind of chill till he gets back. I know for those who are tuning in, he did tell me earlier he was having technical issues as well as issues, and I believe he is back.
Man, oh man, so unprofessional on my part, man.
No, you're good.
I'm betting this usually, man. I had a phone call come in. I'm not used to using my phone for this, and then it messed everything up, bro. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good. Before we last year, I was asking about the I believe it was the '94-'95 team. Do you think that's a team that could have or should have been and even won the Super Bowl that year?
Yeah, there were a couple teams. I thought our '93 team was really good until Danny got hurt. I thought that, at that point, at one point, we were 9-2 in the year. And even Scotty came in and did a really good job for us. We lost our last 5 games. The last one we won was on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. But I thought the next year we were just as stacked, and we should have done bigger things, man, and just could not get it done. And we underachieved. I mean, honestly, we got to keep it real with ourselves that we had a team that still had a really solid defense. Offense had all the stars on it, man, and we didn't get anything done. We underachieved for sure.
And then how good do you think Yadel Green would have been if he didn't destroy his knee right away?
Yeah, Yatil, man, he was a superstar, man. I mean, Yatil was a superstar, and I feel bad for him because, he was so good that he really should have been given more time to get healthy. And I didn't think he was healthy when he did end up destroying his knee. I thought, and that's, that's not the here nor there. That's another Jimmy call about having him out there. But I thought if Yatil would have had an opportunity, he was one of those guys, man, that was super fast, super strong, ran great routes, solid hands, smart. I mean, he was an ideal guy. And that happens to a lot of guys. Health takes away some of the guys that could have been superstars in this league, and that's what happened to Yatil Green for sure.
Who are some of the other players in your time, especially like I guess that'd be the late '90s, that you thought were going to be studs for us, and then whether it was injuries or just didn't work out? Who were some of those?
Man, you know what, man? I mean, offensively, I thought there were a few guys that could have had more opportunity. I thought Troy Drayton, our tight end, he had a long career, but I didn't think he was used well enough, and he had a couple injuries that came along. Our running backs, when Jimmy came in, you saw some of our running backs. We had Cecil Collins, we had who else? We have James Johnson. We had a couple guys that were really good guys, really good players. Lawrence Phillips that came up in there.
Yep.
We had a couple guys that we brought in that I thought could have been really good in our system, but it just didn't work out for them.
All right, now moving on to the current team. First of all, how much would you love to play in Mike McDaniel's offense?
Man, I would love to, man, but I don't think I'm fast enough for that team. Man. That team is too damn fast, bro. But it would be a lot of fun if they can throw me some now routes right now, Coach, and let me get about 4 or 5 yards and get my ass off the field. That'd be a lot of fun. It's like a run play.
For sure, I think that's a big thing with Beckham coming in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, man. Yeah, the offense is incredible, man. He does so many fun things with these guys, and they've got enough speed to do these things. With the cheat motion, they do so many shifts and things like that. Where if you're a defense, you got to play so basic at times. Because if you try to get too cute, somebody will bust in that coverage or things like that, man. But I think with the talent that we have and the guys being in this offense for the third year, it should be really, really special, man. So I would definitely have a blast in this offense. Even if I got, 10 to 15 snaps a game, I would love those opportunities.
So going on to extensions, I think everybody was expecting the first extension to be Tua this year. Ended up being Waddle. Kind of came out of nowhere. It's going to look like a bargain in a probably a couple weeks when a couple other of these guys get extended. What do you think Jalen Waddle needs to do to take his game to the next level?
You know what? Jalen Waddle's so good. He really is, man. He's such a good guy to pretty much play second fiddle to Tyreek. I think for him, man, it's just going to be the opportunities. I know there's some games where he gets more targets, but I think if they can even his targets out a little bit more, I know Tyreek deserves a target, but if they can even his targets out some more, I think Jalen's going to be awesome, man. And when he's given opportunities, he makes plays, and that's the key. His game is almost there right now, but give him a few more opportunities per game, and it's going to be incredible to watch how one game he might lead the team, one game Tyreek might lead the team.
Do you think the Tua extension gets done? And what do you think he should get?
I do. I would never talk numbers because, I think, for me as players, man, you're only worth if somebody's willing to pay you. You know what I mean? I think it gets done. I think it's a perfect match in heaven between him and Mike McDaniel. I got talked about the wide receivers. How about he and Mike McDaniel in the same system for 3 years now? I think it gets done. The only thing about it is, man, I think some of these other quarterbacks, got more. I can't say more than they deserve because, like I said, you're only worth for somebody's willing to pay you. But they've messed the market up so bad that the Dolphins don't want to be caught in a situation like that, I don't feel. I think Tua's worth a lot of money, obviously. But who knows if it's in the $55 million range.
Yeah. What would you now we have a Bills fan asking, aren't you glad the Dolphins and Bills rivalry is fiery again?
Nah, because the Bills been kicking our butts, man. If they stop kicking our butts, I love it again, man. But I do. I love that, man. I came into that rivalry, in the 90s, man, when the Bills went to 4 Super Bowls. I know I got there the year before they beat us at home in the AFC Championship game. So I do love the fact that the Bills are back. I feel like the Jets are getting closer. It's good to hear that New England's not as good as they used to be. But that Bills-Dolphins rivalry, it's special, and I'm glad it's close. It's not a rivalry yet because they've been kicking our butt. But once we start evening that matchup up, then it'll be back to the rivalry again.
OJ, who's your favorite team to play against in the AFC East?
Oh man, well I hate all of them. First and foremost, I hate the Jets, obviously Patriots. You know what I mean? I hate the Bills. I still hate the Colts, so not even in our division anymore. You know what I mean? That's how bad it is. But it was always fun going to New York and playing. I mean, playing in the Meadowlands back in the day was a lot of fun. A lot of New Yorkers down here. And they, in our home game here, and there's a lot of Jets fans in the stands, so it's always fun to go up there and win, and obviously fun winning down here against those guys.
And our producer just asked, how much do you think the Bills will miss Diggs this upcoming year?
Well, they've got Josh, man. They're going to miss him because he is that dynamic. But man, with Josh Allen, man, I mean, he can make a lot of those guys look really good, man. And it's gonna be fun to see how. Well, not fun, interesting. How about interesting? I don't want to say fun because I don't want them to have any fun. But it's gonna be interesting to see how they adapt to some of the new guys and see what they do. See if they do miss him. It's gonna be they'll miss him early, but they'll figure it out.
Do you believe the defense is going to be improved under Anthony Weaver?
That I don't know, and I think that's the big question mark for all of us. I see him bringing guys in. I love our secondary, the way it's panning out and shaping up. I love our linebackers, the way it's coming around. Big guys up front, and then Calais getting him. Campbell. That's going to be an interesting one. I worry about. I know we got Chop Robinson in the draft, but we're going to miss Chubb. We're going to miss Jalen Phillips. Those guys are going to be big misses for us early, I think. But I think the defense can be special if we get everybody healthy at the beginning. And then I don't know much about, Weaver's system, but I heard it's pretty damn good.
Curious about your opinion on this, OJ. One of the things I think most people had the opinion of towards the end of the year was that the Dolphins weren't physical enough to compete with the big boys, especially with all the injuries that were coming up. A lot of people pointed to the offensive line, but the moves that we've made this offseason, Jonnu Smith, OBJ, basically not going for an interior offensive lineman in the draft or in free agency, at least a bigger name, letting Hunt leave. It feels like the Dolphins felt that the bigger issue was our slot guys were not winning in the receiving game, or tight ends too. We didn't have a single touchdown from the tight ends. Do you think the additions to the passing game, OBJ, Jonnu Smith, even the Washington brothers, the rookies, do you think that's going to make a big difference, or do you think they still should look at offensive line going into camp?
Well, you're always looking at guys. You're always looking to improve your roster, man. And I think all the time when you're looking at guys, you always want to look at guys that have been in the league. You want to look at some grown-ass men, some gams. We call them gams. Get some gams out there that's played at that level, know the game, know the speed of the game and the strength that it takes to play in the game. I think they did a pretty good job with that. We look at certain positions and we want to. You got to spend key money for them, and obviously offensive guard is not one of those positions. And I'm happy for Hunt. He did a great job for a guy that plays that position. I'm happy for Christian Wilkins on the other side for going and getting what he got for a guy that plays this position. But when you look at the offensive line, you don't really need to have a great offensive line. You have to have a good group of guys that work well together. You got to have some strong ass dudes in there that work well together. And I think we do. I think we did that. And I think Jonnu's going to be a heck of a job helping us on the run game. I think OBJ in the slot's going to make guys have to play a certain style, of defense where you can't just put a bunch of guys in the box and stop the run. You can't just double Tyreek. You can't just double Jalen. You've got to pay attention to all our guys on the outside. If they're playing a high two shell all the time, our run game should be spectacular this year. And then when they bring somebody in the box, then we got the one-on-ones we want. So it should be a really special thing of cat and mouse for us. And Tua, like I said, being in the system for a little while, to be able to pick guys apart depending on what style of defense they want to play.
And what do you think of Chop Robinson coming in, especially with the injury?
Yeah, well, I'm a homer when it comes to Chop Robinson, man. Being a Penn State guy, he's really good, man. He's dynamic. Everybody talks about the numbers he didn't have at Penn State, but you got to look at the lack of opportunities he had at Penn State as well, man. A lot of double teams. Michigan threw the ball one time in that Michigan game against us in the second half. But Chop, when he bends that corner, he's incredible, man. He's got these bow legs, man, that you make him a little, I don't know, is more agile than most guys can be coming around that corner, man. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. He's got some great guys to learn from. When you look at guys like Bradley Chubb, you look at guys like Jalen Phillips, and when he gets his opportunity, man, he's going to be special out there.
I agree. I went to a couple Penn State games last year, and he's like this close every time when he's coming around that edge. And, guys in the NFL hold it a little bit longer because they're getting to their progressions and their reads, and that's going to help him out with more production on his sacks and stuff. So
yeah, and we'll get some interior push from some guys. You know what I mean? You get a quarterback off his spot, he might come right to you. You know, and that could be an opportunity for him as well, man. But his pressure is going to be special. And then we got some great cover guys on the outside. You know, and that's like you're talking about, Coach. They hold that ball just a little bit longer. That's all it takes for these guys to get there. You might not get the sack, but what if you get a handle on the football? You know, what if you get that, you know, that strip sack right there and you keep it going like that? It's gonna be interesting to see how and I've heard already that Chop has been disruptive in practice already. You know, so I love hearing that as well.
Yeah, from what I remember too, is Chop said the one thing he had to work on was his hands, and he's already said his hand placement is 100 times better than it was.
The little things when it comes to the pros, you know, that make a huge difference. You can't just, you know, you can get away with some things in college, but when you get to the pro level, the little things are what makes a difference. And don't think that these offensive tackles aren't studying him and knowing how to get a hold of him and things like that. But he's going to be able to study those guys, and his hands are the key. Keep hands off you, and you're invincible as a defensive end, obviously.
Couple questions we got earlier today from you. For you, what would you say, which current receiver best reminds you of yourself when you were a player?
On our team or in general?
In general.
Oh man, all these guys are so much. They're just so fast, man. All these 4.3 guys. And I was a 4.4 guy. A lot of them are so much bigger. It's hard to even get a comparison, man. I mean, I know when Jarvis, I know he has, I don't think he's on the team right now, but Jarvis Landry really reminded me a lot of myself. A guy that, you know, did all the dirty work on the inside, would block and do things like that. You know, so juice was kind of our thing. You know, so if Jarvis is active again, I know he's trying to stay in the league. Jarvis is a guy that I love the way he worked, and I thought it reminded me a lot of myself.
And real quick as we're watching, U.S. just lost to Panama in the Copa. So to get out of the round to other group, we are going to have to beat Uruguay on the next game. It happens when you get a red card and you're down a man all game.
Yeah.
But another question we had from a friend of the show, how would you say the route tree has changed from when you were active?
Oh, they don't run routes anymore, man. They run the areas, man. It's fascinating to me that they can even get open, man. There's some guys they run routes, but for the most part, I mean, they don't run anything anymore. I mean, you can look at Travis Kelce. I don't think Travis Kelce ran a route yet all last year, the year before that. And the same thing with the wide receivers, man. It's like they're smart about just getting in the areas. I love route trees. That's one thing I didn't like about Jimmy Johnson. We actually ran route trees. We ran a numbered route tree, which is crazy to me at the pro level that we were running something like that. I said, why are we having meetings, man? We might as well just tell me what number I run, and I can run that all day. But yeah, they don't run routes yet. You talk about curls and you know what I mean, and digs and things like that. They do, but they don't break them off hard. They kind of drift into areas. It's like it's really weird to me. But hey, guys are getting open and quarterbacks are finding them. It's just the way the systems are these days.
It's the same thing with the run game. In the run game back in the day, they used to give you a number or where you were going. It's not like that no more. It's just, hey, we're going right, we're going left.
That's
all it is.
And they got the cutback, and they can stretch it, whatever they want to do.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, man, and that's why you get these holding calls all the time, right, Coach? Man, because they're also running back.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Go back to Penn State. Who was? So you played with Kerry Collins. Were you also with Bobby Ingram, or was he after you?
Bobby Ingram was before. I mean, it was after me, but I recruited Bobby and I played opposite him my last year. Yep.
What was your favorite game back when you were at Penn State? Like just a game that sticks out to you that you're like, that is your signature moment.
Oh man, there are a couple games. I love playing against UM. You know, we lost to them twice, man, but I had really big numbers against them. And I really feel like that's the reason I got drafted by the Dolphins. I think that, you know, the Don Shula coaching staff was looking at UM players and they said, well, who's this kid that's chewing their ass up? You know what I mean? And hopefully that was me that he was looking at and gave me an opportunity, man. But playing against I loved our independent schedule. You know, playing against the UMs, playing against the Notre Dames, playing against USC, playing against Texas. You know, those were fun, man. Playing against BYU, we were all over the place playing against some big time teams, man. And so all of those games got me pumped, man. But playing against UM was always special.
And did Penn State join the Big Ten after? Were you there for when they joined the Big Ten, or were you independent your whole
I missed
career?
it by a year. So our whole university had joined before I got there. Everything except for football. After I left, the first year after I left was the year we played the Big Ten schedule.
Okay. And again, going back to your career again, going up to the draft process, did you know how interested the Dolphins were in you? And when they drafted you, did they tell you like what the plan was for you? Just kind of getting an idea of just how different it is, because it seems like you came up and it didn't matter what position you were sitting. But just kind of curious how the process was.
Yeah, I had no idea the Dolphins would draft me, first and foremost. I thought I was going to San Diego. That's what I've been hearing the whole time. I was going to San Diego at pick 22. When pick 22 didn't happen, and 23 and 4 didn't happen, and 25 comes up, and I get a call from Don Shula, I was shocked. I had no idea that, that they were interested in me at all. I was just down there for a bowl game. We just played Stanford in a bowl game a few months earlier than that. And so it was nice that I was going back to South Florida, man, but I had no idea. And originally, they drafted me as a return guy. You talked about the receivers that were there. Even Mark Duper was in the mini camp, my first mini camp there before Coach Shula let him go. So having him and Mark Ingram and Urban Fryer and Tony Martin, we had guys, Freddie Banks and Scotty Miller. We had so many really good receivers there. I knew my job at the beginning was just going to go back and return punts and kickoffs, and that's what I did for the most part until I got about halfway through the season when I started running with the number one team, and in sub situations, dime and nickel situations.
Hey OJ, during your career when you were playing, what is the one time that you got hit in a game, and who is the guy that hit you?
Oh man, I got hit a couple times really good. One time, both of them were at home. Both of them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I know this because it felt like it was dark after both of those hits. So one time I got hit over the middle against the Detroit Lions. Mark Carrier knocked the holy crap out of me, man. And Danny actually threw the ball high over the middle, which he never did. And it was in the first quarter, and I got knocked senseless, man. But I heard this because I don't remember it much, but I heard I was talking trash all the way back to the huddle. Lamar Thompson told me I was talking trash all the way back to the huddle to Mark, and but I don't remember that. But then I got back to the huddle and I felt my chin and it was split, so I had to leave the game after that. Plus, I was a little woozy at that point anyway, so it's probably best that I did too. The second one, we're playing against the Giants at home, and we're running talking about routes. We're running a 7-9 combo. I'm in the side on the slot running a 7 route. Outside guys running a 9, and Jason Sehorn was covering the 9 on the outside, and my outside guy didn't clear him out. I ran that 7. He came off and lit me up. It was, man, that was probably the hardest one. The one where I cut my chin didn't really hurt that much, but that one from Jason Sehorn, I felt that one for a while.
Yeah, he was a big man too.
He was a big corner, man. He's a big corner.
Talking about wide receivers, what are your thoughts on the Brandon Ayuk situation going on in San Francisco?
Oh man, everybody feels that they're worth a certain amount of money, man, and for him to say they don't want me out here, I don't think that's true. It's like a situation we're going through with Tua, man. It's just hard to pay guys a lot of money, but you got these other guys that have set the market so high. I mean, you look at some of these wide receiver contracts. Holy cow, you can play slot right now and make $15 million a year. That's why I played a lot. I was like, man, I barely made $500,000, $600,000 a year. Now these guys are making $15 million a year playing inside. It's special, man. I just think that, guys just gotta be careful, man. Just don't ruin everything by asking for way too much. But you gotta stick to your principles. Whatever you think you're worth, man, you gotta stay in there with it. And he's worth a lot of money. So if they don't want to give it to him, I'm sure somebody will.
Again, going back to playing days, you don't see teams give up on first round picks after 1 year right away. Billy Milner was one the Dolphins traded. You mentioned Troy Drayton traded for him after 1 year. Was there a moment where you saw and you were like, or the team, like you or any teammates saw and you're just like, yeah, he just doesn't have it?
No, I didn't. I don't think that. I think that that was a Jimmy years coming in too. Think about it, and Jimmy wanted Troy Drayton from the beginning. Jimmy wanted Troy Drayton in Dallas, but the Rams took him before they got a chance to get him. So when he got an opportunity to get Troy Drayton, that was the reason I think we lost Billy because of that situation. He wanted Troy bad, and then we got him.
What were your thoughts on John Avery when we drafted him?
You know what? I super fast. I thought he was super small, which proved to be true in the NFL, man. It's the NFL, man. You got to have some some junk in the trunk, to play running back in this league, man. And John was super fast, but it's a grown man game, man. It really is, and his size showed, when he played for the Dolphins, or lack thereof, I should say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you could have been, if they didn't trade down, you could have been playing with Randy Moss.
Oh man, yeah. You know what, man? He might have taken some of my grabs away, man. So I don't know.
He might have, but you might have got more yards out of it too.
He was taking 3 with him though, too, right? I had the one-on-ones, right?
So not really football related, but how's it going down there with all the stuff with the Florida Panthers going on? Man, is that awesome or what?
It's been bananas, man. It's been bananas, and I've had a blast. I met him at the Elbow Room the day after we won the Cup. Hung out with Chuck and all those guys, man. It's a lot of fun, man. And the parade is Sunday, and the Cup has been making its rounds through South Florida.
It's awesome.
What I love about these guys, man, they've been going to all the local little bars, restaurants, eateries, bakeries, and taking the Cup and letting the whole South Florida enjoy the moment with them, man. So they just been awesome, man. And, to have them right here, where I live in Fort Lauderdale, right here in Fort Lauderdale, it means the world to us, too. I think I would love to call them the Fort Lauderdale Panthers, man, because, they have embraced this city and done a heck of a job of bringing a lot of fun to us.
That's awesome, yeah. Did you get a sip of beer out of the cup or what?
I didn't. My son did. He's 22. My son did. But there was just too many lips on it at that point, man. So I'll just wait till I should have gotten in it when he brought it out of the ocean. Then I might have gotten a little sip in.
It seems like for most of his ownership, Mr. Ross has been heavily criticized, especially by the fan base. Understandable. We lost picks because of collusion or whatever it was. The whole Florida situation, recruit trying to get Jim Harbaugh when we had Tony Sperano still, Bullygate, which I don't really think is his fault. What is some of the good stuff you've seen that Stephen Ross has done for the team and even down in South Florida?
Man, Mr. Ross is awesome. Let me put it that way right away. Yeah, we did get in trouble for the for the tampering, and of course everything is noted, like you talked about, the Harbaugh situation. The Bullygate, which is, the Bullygate was something, I don't know, it's a locker room situation, who knows. But this man spends every dime. He cares about his football team. He doesn't spare any. His checkbook is always open for this football team. You talk about, a stadium that the city, South Florida, wouldn't embrace and help him rebuild. He put his own money on it, rebuild it himself. You talk about a facility that the players needed. We had a great facility, I thought, when I played, but it was outdated. Built a brand new facility for the players. He doesn't spare any coin when it comes to trying to make this team better. The hottest new coaches, he's spending money to get the hottest new coaches, whatever it might be. So I know the fans are upset about some things, but what do you expect an owner to do? He can't go out there and play the game. He writes the checks, brings in the best guys. The best guys don't get it done, then he replaces them. That's what it's all about, man. So, yeah, man, I love Mr. Ross. Not only that, we have him and Tom Garfinkel. Tom is great as well. They take care of the alumni so well. We got a 60-person suite for every game, for the alumni to go to. We spend like $50 to go to the games, and it's like they could sell that suite for so much money, but they're like, you know what? We take care of the guys that took care of us. So I'm all in with Mr. Ross, man. I think he does a heck of a job, and all he wants to do is win. And I know now that the Panthers have won, he's really chomping at the bit to get a dub now down here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed like looking around the NFL, I don't think you see
Oh, it's freezing up on me. My bad.
team
I think you're freezing up there, Brett.
Yeah, there you go. Let's try that again, Brett. It was freezing up on me, bud.
Nice. Gotta love technology.
All right.
Yep. I don't know if you guys heard me. I said I don't think you can see a team around the NFL that takes care of the alumni like the Dolphins do.
There are none. You're absolutely right, Brad. Let me tell you why I know this. Because when we tell other players that play in the league, we go to a lot of charity events. We're all over the country. We're talking to these other guys that play for other teams. We tell them what we get, and they're like, get out of here. They don't believe us, man. They have no idea, you know. And we're so blessed, too, because think about it. I mean, we played in Miami. Most of us stayed down here. If I played in Green Bay, I probably wouldn't be living in Green Bay. No diss on Green Bay, but I probably would be still living in Miami or some other tropical area. You know what I mean? And so the fact that so many of our guys are down here still, and even other guys that didn't play down here live down here. My best friend, Kajana Carter, lives down here. You know, my boy Reggie Gibbons, all these guys all live down here. But the way the Dolphins take care of us, no other team does it. They want to try to replicate it, but none of them can get it done like they do for us.
Yep. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of good things about Mr. Garfinkel, too. I remember when he came, I think, from San Diego Padres. I remember a lot of people saying he was a big hire, and I had a chance to meet him during the 2019 season. I went to a Pittsburgh Steelers game, and he was meeting with friends and talking, making sure all the players were getting to talk to the fans and sign autographs. So seems like he's definitely a plus for the team.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this, Brett. Let me tell you what he and Mr. Ross have done here. Not only for the football team, but we've got the Miami Open, which is like almost like the fourth Grand Slam when it comes to tennis. You know, we've got the F1. F1, we had a 10-year contract, which we just finished our third year, which every year brings like Super Bowl money to the city. You know, and we have 7 more years of this left. I mean, we've got a stadium that never sleeps. Concerts. You know, we do Rolling Loud. We do all this stuff there. And it's all because of, you know, Mr. Ross allowing it, but Tom Garfinkel thinking outside the box, you know, to bring all these activities and all these events to our stadium. I mean, when COVID hit, Tom Garfinkel and the Dolphins and Jason Jenkins, God rest his soul, they fed the whole community, man. They kept the people at open play, the people that make food for our stadium. They kept them employed, making food for the community, and the community would come in their cars, open up, and a lot of players like myself, former players, current players, people that work for the organization would put like fresh meals in their cars every single day. Then when the weekend came, he let the local restaurants make it, and then we'd help them pay for it, and you know, and they'd serve it to the communities, man. So the things that they do, look at F1. F1 has all these garages, right? So instead of those garages going vacant, they rent them out every Dolphin home game. You know, so like our major, like Publix or all these major companies, they'll have like a watch party or a tailgate party in these garages, and then they'll go in and watch the game, man. So it's just amazing, you know, what we do around here, like 365 days a year.
And then to move on to the rest of the front office, our producer, Mr. S, he's running our Twitter. He's going to hate me for doing this, but he is not a fan of Chris Grier, mainly because he hasn't signed Tua yet. Please explain to our producer the positives that Chris Grier has brought to this team.
Man, he brought a lot of positives, man. Who thought we could have gotten the Tyreek Hill deal? You know what I mean? Who thought we could have gotten a Bradley Chubb? You know, who thought, you know, there's so many things that Chris can be proud of. And the same thing happens when you're talking about the GM when guys don't actually pan out that you go out there and get. You know, especially draft picks. If draft picks don't pan out, you know, half the draft picks aren't going to work out for teams. And some of them are first and second round guys, you know. So I think, Chris and his staff, they do a great job of finding guys. If the guys don't pan out, I mean, that's honestly a lot of times on the coach or the guy himself. And South Florida is a tough place to come, as you guys know, especially for a young kid with a bunch of money, no responsibilities. You got a city that's open 7 days a week until 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, you just never know, you know, how these guys are, you know, are going to embrace this city and how they're going to, you know, about their professionalism at times. So, you know, I'm a big Chris fan. I really am. I know he gets a tough rap, but I think he's doing the best he can with a lot of these opportunities that he gets out there. But I think he's brought some incredible talent here. And if they don't pan out, most of the time it's because of South Beach.
will be interesting too, because I don't know if you knew this, but his brother is the GM of the San Jose Sharks, and they got 2 top 10 picks tomorrow night.
Yeah, I do know that, man. I know his family's in the hockey, and they're all they're a GM type of family. You know what I mean? It's terrible that they have that many top 10 picks. It means the team wasn't very good this year. But it's nice to see that they're excelling like his dad used to as well.
Just kind of the couple superlative questions. I'm curious because everybody has those. When you were a player, looking back at, and you can even go into college if you want, but mostly the Dolphins, if you heard one player got in trouble the night before a game, who was the most likely you would hear that if you heard that you'd be like, well, that makes sense?
Oh man. I don't know, man. I mean, most of the guys I know might have gotten in trouble 2 nights before the game. But night before the game, it's a hard one to pick because I'm telling you, most of these guys are real serious about their profession. But if it were somebody got in trouble the night before a game, I hate to say it, it might be my boy Charles Jordan. Could be my boy Lamar Thomas, but that's my wideout buddies, man. They'll understand why I'm saying that.
Yeah. Who's one player that you would say was the hardest worker on the team that fans would be shocked to hear about?
Man, there are a lot of guys. Everybody works hard, man. They really are. Fans would be shocked about. I mean, you look at one of the hardest guys I played, Larry Izzo was a hell of a hard worker. Zach, of course, we all know is a hard worker. Jason, all those guys that excelled were all hard workers. Some guys got away with just talent, but talent, it fades at some point. And then if you're not working hard, then you're in trouble. But Irvin Fryer, I'm going to tell you this. Irvin Fryer, when he was in his 30s, was still one of the fastest, toughest, dudes I ever met. So Troy Drayton is the strongest man I've ever played with, including linemen, defense, offense. It didn't matter. Nobody was stronger than Troy Drayton. You know what I mean? That dude, he'll take 315 and put it up 20, 22 times and rack it like it's nothing. You know what I mean? So guys like that, they work hard all the time, but most of them work really, really hard, man. And you see it mostly in the results.
So you hear everybody always ask Dan Marino, could you in this day and age of football, with the way defenses, offenses are set up, could you throw for 6,000 yards? He always says, yes, I could do it. Do you think you could throw for 6,000 yards if he was still playing today? Easily.
Dan was precision, man. He was a surgeon out there, and then, you couldn't hit him. You can't, Danny got beat up. I mean, they beat Danny up, man. You throw an interception back in the day. That's why Danny didn't run too many of those guys. He couldn't run them down, first of all, but that's why he didn't try, because, they'll pick back in the day that the first guy they hunt is a quarterback, and now that's illegal, thank goodness, because it makes no sense that they allowed that in the first place. But man, Danny's his arm strength, his knowledge, his ability to read defense was incredible. And of course, you can't beat a perfect throw, and he had a lot of those. And so there'd be a great opportunity for him to make some perfect throws in this league.
How would you have done as a receiver with the defenses and how the defenses are called now? Because you could practically get mugged back when you played.
Oh, I did get mugged, man. That's Ty Law. He's still mugging me. I see him down here every once in a while. I said, "Ty, get your hands off me." You know what I mean? He's great, obviously. He's a great player. I love playing against him, competing against him, man. And he got the most of me quite a few times, man, but it was always fun. But nowadays, man, they call that. They call the hold after 5 yards, after 6 yards. You know what I mean? The collision I would get when I'm already 7 yards of my route, they call that nowadays. So you gotta. It's tough for DBs these days. I wish it was tougher for them when I played. That's for damn sure.
You mentioned Ty Law. Was it tougher going up against him or Madison and Surtain in practice?
Man, I had to deal with them young boys. I'm going to tell you this. It started with Troy Vincent and J.B. Brown. Them dudes, man, they were tough to deal with from right when I got there as a rookie. They were unbelievable. And Troy was only in his second year, and Troy was just unbelievable. First-round pick for us the year before, him and Marco Coleman. But, man, he was strong, fat, long arm. Anybody's got long arms gave me fits, because even if you beat them off the ball, they can still redirect you with just a quick little jab. Now you're off track. You're off balance sometimes. But I tell you, Sam and Pat, I had to deal with them dudes every day. I only had to deal with Ty, twice a year. I had to deal with Sam and Pat every day, and they gave me fits at times because they were young bucks messing with an old guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, those dudes were tough to deal with for sure. And there's no penalties in practice. You know, they're not calling any flags. All the holes, the pass interference, it was rampant at that point.
I also remember talking about Pat and Sam is Andy Reid back at Philly. Actually, it kind of caused some beef with Sam and Pat because they came out and specifically named them as being too handsy in games.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They got to put that in the referees' minds, man. You know what I mean? Trying to steal some flags that way. And they are handsy, man. Them dudes, and they might have a tough time playing in today's game because of that. Sam always wants to put his hands on you. And he's a great teacher and technician when it comes to that. Pat as well. Pat was so good in the slot, which is probably the hardest place to play because guys like myself had so many options. You know, give me an option route and a guy in the slot, he's in trouble. That's why there's a lot of times there was help. I know, you know, inside and outside help. You know, and that was part of the game plan against me a lot of times, especially on third down.
When you retired, when you decided this is going to be it, how hard was that for you, and what helped you make the decision?
Yeah, it was a pretty easy decision for me, you know, Coach, because my foot was so messed up at that point. You know, I'd shot it up a couple years in a row just to get out there on the football field. I went from size 11.5 to a size 13 on my left foot because it's swollen up so much and it was so bad. I had 3 surgeries on it. So that was the toughest part because I know I had some good years ahead of me, but the only thing wide receivers cannot mess up are their feet and their hands. And of course I messed up one of my feet, you know, it was tough.
Yep. Speaking of hands, rank them 3. Who had best hands in Dolphins history? You, or in your time frame, you, Oronde Gadsden, and Chris Chambers.
Oh man. So I didn't play with Chris. I just missed Chris. But Aronde's got the best hands because they're the biggest hands. You shake Aronde's hands, you shake his wrist. He'll shake your wrist. His hands all the way up to your wrist is so damn big, man. You know what I mean? I mean, he made some catches in practice that literally stopped practice. They were so incredible with one hand, man. But his hands are just huge. I love my hands, man. But Aronde's hand, I can't compete with those because they're so massive.
Yeah, I think his son's draft eligible next year too.
He is up in Syracuse, man. He's a hell of a player himself, man. You know, I'm looking forward to see what he can do. He's a lot faster than his dad was, so he could be a better pro than his dad was.
Well, that's us looking at Jason Taylor's son going to be draft eligible as a tight end. It's like, what is
a tight end, huh?
Yeah, I wonder what his dad thinks about him playing on offense.
Yeah, Mason's unbelievable, man. He's a big kid too, man. He's bigger than his dad. You know what I mean? And he's a tight end that can block, can run, can catch. So went to St. Thomas Aquinas here in South Florida, man. Just has excelled at LSU, man. I'm looking forward to see what he does at the next level because the game has turned into guys like him at tight end. You know, tight ends that can run and catch and block. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch him at the next level.
I guess we do appreciate you've been about going up on an hour. What are your predictions before preseason, before OT training camp? What are your predictions for the Dolphins this year? And also, do you think they can make a Super Bowl run this year?
I think we're going to be damn good, man. I think we're going to be really, really good. I think offensively, you look at our guys on offense, man. We'll get Tua done. We talk about our wide receivers, Tyreek, Jalen, OBJ. Look at our running backs we have. The kid from Tennessee we just picked up, Mostert, Achane. You know what I mean? Look at our tight end, Jonnu, along with Smythe. I mean, our offense is going to be really, really hard to stop. If we give these guys room and time, it's going to be a problem for any team that faces us.
Producer asking you, because we always joke because he's so worried about Tua's health. Do you have any concerns about the O-line, or is that just a thing of as Tua got over the hip injury and he's gotten better, that it's like Dan, where it's just like you just need to be good enough?
Yeah, I don't have any concerns, man. Butch Barry's done a great job at the offensive line. I think our offensive Coach Smith, our offensive coordinator, has done a great job. Of course, McDaniel's scheme. I mean, he's a run game coordinator. You know, when he was at San Francisco, his scheme is made for guys that are like our guys that are super athletic, you know, able to go out there and move and work in space. Coach Fuller, we talked a little bit about how, you know, a lot of zone read. You know, these guys just cover guys up and give guys a little gap. And the speed that we have from our guys, they can hit these gaps and be out. You know, if we can get guys to the next level on that offensive line. So I'm not worried about them at all. Well, we have to develop more depth. I think we have to do that through some of the young guys. Having depth is the key to all this, because at some point, one or two of those guys are going to get hurt, miss a week or 2, 3 weeks, whatever it is. We got to be able to replace them without missing a beat.
Right.
And last question for me, it's just going to be an over-under. Does Tua go over/under 35 touchdowns this year?
Oh, over for sure. Yeah, over for sure. I don't even think it's a question. I mean, look, that's two touchdowns a game. You know what I mean? If he can't do 2 touchdowns a game, you know, he might have 1 a game, but he might have 3 or 4 in another game. So I think it's well over for sure.
You think it's over 45?
Oh, now we're getting in the, you know, gray area right there. I would say, you know, between 35 and 45 touchdowns this year. Okay. If he stays healthy, knock on wood.
Yep. Yeah.
That's always a key for anybody, not just Tua, but everybody out there, man. Numbers are only as good as your health is.
Yep.
Hey, before we take off here, I just want to tell you how much the Dolphin fans appreciate you. We've seen you up at the Hall of Fame. We see how personable you are with all the fans. You always take care of everybody. We just want to thank you for that. And, you know, we love you.
And, man, I appreciate the love, man. That's why I do it, man, because, you know, the Dolphin fans have showed me nothing but love ever since I stepped foot down here in South Florida. I know I saw the newspaper when I first got picked. They weren't too happy about him getting a wide receiver, but I think I've changed all that since 31 years ago. I think we're good now.
Yeah,
absolutely. And anybody who's watching, if you're not following OJ on Twitter, definitely follow him at OJ McDuffie 81. Great player. And even as a Dolphins fan, as a Michigan fan, OJ, I will tell you this: I am rooting for Penn State this year, especially because we do not play you.
Oh, I love it. There we go. All right, cool, man. Brett, that works. Thank you. I'm glad you're not playing the suit. Thank you.
Thank you, OJ. Hope you have a great night and a great weekend.
All right, you guys too, man. Enjoy.
Yeah. All right.